Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome once again to my favorite day of the week. It is Thursday. Happy Thursday, everyone. Welcome back to Let's Talk Live with the International Mindset Maven. I am your host, Shayla Bryan. So, Let's Talk Live focuses on helping women gain back dominion over their minds and their life by conquering the most common challenges women face on a day to day basis that keeps them stagnant from living life to their fullest potential. Now, we do this through dynamic teachings as well as conversations with powerful mavens that come on this platform. They come power punch packed, ready to drop nuggets, wisdom, and they share practical principles that they did apply to their life in order to conquer and overcome. So I'm excited because if you haven't already been following every week with the Let's Talk Live, we have a podcast, girlfriends. We have a podcast. Now, last week I had an amazing guest. I had evangelist Wanda Ritchie on, and we deep dive into that concept and the conversation about paralysis, right? Mental, emotional, and spiritual paralysis. I encourage you to go to my YouTube channel, subscribe so that you can get the weekly updates when we have a live and when they get posted to the YouTube page, you were able to get notified and get the replay. Now, next week, I do have an amazing guest as well, which I'm excited to hear what she has to say. She comes to talk about joy. That's going to be a good conversation. So back to tonight. Hey, listen, I am excited to be back tonight to talk about the 11 mindset mastery tips that I have been going over for the past few weeks. How can you live an optimal life? What does it really take to live an optimal life in this society? Because let me tell you, for a lot of people, if you're hearing conversations like I'm hearing conversations, it seems like a lot of people are just so lost and confused. People are just going through a lot of things because there is just so much noise, right? And a lot of people don't know what their best life looks like. They believe they have to have material gains, possessions. They need to have more than what they can actually handle in order to live their best life. And I'm here to tell you that's not true. You can live your best life by living the way God intended for you to live, living your life. So my goal every week, right? My goal as I come on this platform every single week is to help women become bold, courageous action takers, right? So that you can begin to move in that lane, move into the marketplace, but do it in the way that you're supposed to, showing up as you, right? Not a counterfeit. Not a counterfeit, just like your true you, your identity of who you are in Christ. So tonight conversation that I'm excited to have is to talk about staying on track. What does it take to stay on track? And are you on track? So Winston Churchill, right? And I'm not that good with names, but Winston Churchill said something that's so profound when it came down to the continuous effort. He says it's continuous effort, not strength or intelligence, is the key to unlocking your true potential. So think about it, that you can put so much strength and so much intelligence into something, but that does not mean that it's unlocking your potential. It's your effort. It's the action that you take. And you know what scripture says, that faith without works is dead. So you can be in a position where you are so clear and conscious of what your calling is in life, but you're not moving, right? You're not taking steps. You're not progressing. There's no momentum in your day-to-day actions. So now you feel stuck and stagnant. So we're going to talk about that tonight, right? We're going to talk about getting you back on track. I don't know if you guys know anything about track and field, but I started looking about what does it take to be a runner in the track and field sport. And there are some rules to that sport, and everybody's doing the same thing. You have a bunch of people who are on a track, right? They are running, and everyone wants to get to where the finish line. Everybody. The reality is that I cannot run nobody else's race, even though we're on the same track, okay? So tonight we're going to ask some conversation. We're going to have a conversation, but we're going to ask some questions. I'm going to ask you, the viewer, some questions about what is your lane. Are you in your lane? Do you know your lane, right? Are you looking over there and looking over here and getting so distracted that you're tripping up on things because you're not paying attention to where you're supposed to be heading? So I want to ask you, the first question tonight is, do you know, or do you understand? Are you aware? Are you conscious of what is your calling, what is your purpose, because there's many people who still do not know what their calls or their purposes in life, and that's okay. I'm a believer that purpose is dynamic. It's not a static, you know, experience. It's something that changes and evolves with you. As you grow older and wiser in life, you begin to see and awaken to different skills or abilities or gifts or talents that you probably didn't even tap into before. So if you want to live your best life, or what I call your optimal life, you have to know what path that you're on, and you have to be so clear and conscious that that's the track that you need to be on, that what other people are doing does not become a distraction to trip you up or to give you no sense of discouragement because you're not moving as fast as somebody else, or you don't feel like your products or your services or whatever you're doing is matching up to someone else in the marketplace. So we want to be very mindful of where we are, because let me tell you, it can be a miserable experience to be in a place where you want to do something, but you're comparing you to somebody else. That can feel pretty miserable, right? And I can tell you right now that whenever you are sitting in a place of comparison, you are sitting in a space of stagnation. That is very real. A lot of people don't also continue their race. A lot of people start a race, right? They start working, they start their business, they start going back to school, they start something new, but then life happens and they get discouraged and they give up. Let me tell you one thing I know by being a gym fanatic. It's so easy to quit. It is easy to quit. It takes true perseverance. It takes true will to persist and press and push yourself past the discomfort, past the challenges, past your personal issues, past distractions. It really does take to seriously be committed to a vision or to yourself in order to just keep going despite what happens, because life will happen, right? We know that saying that if life throws you lemonades, that you ought to make yourself a cup of lemons. Like, you could throw life throws you lemons, you make yourself a cup of lemonade, right? Y'all get the whole saying, the cliche saying of society. But the truth behind that is that you gotta stay on track. You gotta continue to be in your lane, running your race. And this is not a marathon either. This is a sprint, right? Your journey to fulfilling, your journey to your ultimate calling, your journey to living a life that is an example in the kingdom of God. It is not a marathon. You're not racing against nobody. You know why? You cannot race against nobody else, because there's only one of you. Even twins. I've met so many twins. I have a pair of twins in my family, and they both have different things. Like, they have different journeys, different likes, different careers. So they're not even in the same lane, even though they share the same DNA. All right. I don't know who this is for tonight, but I want to help somebody get back on track. I want to help somebody remember what it is that you need to be doing in this year, new season of 2021. 2020 WON, right? You've already won, you've already reached there, but you have to see yourself in that space. So I just want to encourage somebody tonight to take a look at where you are in life and ask yourself this real, true question. Are you really running your race? Are you really running your race? Okay, they're going to be detours, they're going to be distractions, they're going to be trip ups. That's life. Life happens. But the reality is, are you allowing those life distractions to sit you down and you park, right? And you stop? Or are you going to just take assessment of what issues are you experiencing and allow yourself to go through it regardless? Because guess what? There's no other way around it. It's only through it. Okay? You got to go through it. All right? Now, for me personally, I learned that one of the best ways I could have kept myself on track to be where I am today is to know that I needed to be brave enough to continue to show up and deal with my personal problems, deal with them in a way that it did not always show up with me. All right, I'm going to help somebody tonight. I learned that I needed to be so brave. I needed to be brave to show up even in the midst of struggles, Even in the midst of problems occurring in my life, I will still show up for me, but I don't have to show up with my problems. All right. I've been in platforms and different environments where, I hear people come up and speak, and the most that they will always come out of their mouth, the most things you hear is negativity. People just really are ready to always pour from their negative cup, their half empty cup, right? They're seeing life from a place where there is nothing to be grateful for. There's nothing that is changing, or nothing that is getting better. And you got to know, you speak to your problems. You got to know that you have the power in your tongue to tell that mountain to cast itself into the sea, and it shall do that. All right. Even that is a way to keep yourself on track. You have to be in a place where you yourself you're committed. You're committed to where you're going in life. You got a vision for your life, right? Guess what? I always use this analogy of football. I'm a football fanatic as well. I don't have a particular team. I watch football. I just love whoever is just doing what they're committed to do, which is to win. So I watch whatever sport team in this sport that is winning. But here's the analogy. When you think about the sport of football, there's always you have the quarterback and the running back, right? And then when the individual who has the ball is running towards the other end of the field, you have all these people running to stop him. So let me tell you, that's how life really works as well. You got to think about, God gives you a vision, right? You caught the vision. Now you're running with this vision. You know that you have a destination. You know that you want to get somewhere with this vision. You want to see it come to fruition. You want to see it come to manifestation. But guess what happens? Life, opposition, we call it the enemy, right? All of these things begin to happen. And guess what? It might pull you down. It might knock you over. It might even knock the wind out of you for a little bit. But guess what this individual does? I think they call them the running back, right? Whoever. They pick the ball up, they pick themselves up, and they keep on running because they already caught the vision. They already saw where they were going. So they're still running. Are you still running? Or did that whatever issue, whatever is that came and happened, the personal detours, whatever it is that happened, has it stopped you? Have you become stuck? Have you become stagnant, right? Because if you have, you got to ask yourself your question, why? Because I'm pretty confident it's not the first nor the last that you're going to experience some crisis in life. Do you really want to get up? Do you really? Now, that's the next question I want to ask tonight. This is the conversation. Do you really want to get up? Do you really want to keep on moving? Do you really want to find yourself on the other side of that yellow line, right? Where you get that first 10 yards, right? And you still running. And you know there's another 10 yards, right? So you got to keep going. You got to get up. When life knocks you down, if you can look up, you can get up. You can go run another 10 yards, right? So realistically, it requires a level of spiritual maintenance, a mental maintenance, a intellectual and a emotional maintenance. That you have to be emotionally, spiritually, mentally, not just intellectual, but mature. So I go to the gym very frequently. And when I go to the gym and I am consistent in the gym for at least 3 to 5 days consistently, I'm able with no pressure to just pick up a 25-pound dumbbell. But if I go a whole month without going to the gym, when I go and pick up that same 25 pounds, let me tell you, it feels like 100 pounds. So the reality is that it requires as well for you to keep running this race, for you to keep being on track. It requires a level of consistency and commitment. Are you committed to your vision? Are you committed to your goals? Are you committed to whatever it is that you set out to do in 2019, in 2020, right? Despite the pandemic, despite the loss of income, despite the loss of a loved one, despite whatever that might have been that came to put a weight on you, despite that, have you given up? Or are you ready to pick yourself up and run your race? Okay, are you ready? Because if you're ready, it's just a decision. Everything comes down to a decision. Now, if I would have allowed myself, and I know I've had a lot of things that happened for me the last 2 years have been very testing. But listen, the last 2 years, I've produced way more products and services. I've done way more in the marketplace than I've ever done when my life was easy. When everything was easy and breezy, I really didn't have a whole lot going on in life. Guess what? I didn't really have a lot manifested either. I didn't produce a lot of with my personal brand, right? So in the last 2 years, just the last 2 years alone, I have been tried and tested. Okay, I've been tried and tested, and I've come to a place where I realize that all of these things are part of the story, right? Because God is the what? He is the author and the finisher of our story. So I know that God is allowing a lot of these things to occur, to happen to me for greater good. Okay, so now I know, because all these things are happening, there's got to be something greater that is awaiting for me to just keep going and not to give up. I understand when it comes down to being tired. We all get tired. Everybody gets tired. But you know what happens when you're tired? You're allowed to drink some water. You're allowed to sit and take a break. You are even allowed to take a nap. But you're not allowed to quit. You're not allowed to give up, right? Another one of the reasons why for me was easy to pick myself up, to keep going and to stay on track, was that I always found that I could talk to somebody. I always found somebody that I could talk to, that I could trust with some of my dilemmas, some of my conflicts, that will speak into my life, that will continue to encourage me, because you need to be encouraged. Think of that water boy, right? That water boy that sits on the sides of a marathon. Think of the 5K marathon runners. There's always a water boy that's just along the journey, that's just running with them, just to give them some water. There's going to be people in your life that did just to give you a fresh word of encouragement. That's all they're there for. You just need that one person every other few miles as you're running this journey, as you are on this track that you are going to accomplish and achieve your goals and your visions, to just give you a little word of encouragement, maybe pray with you, maybe connect you to a resource, whatever that might be like for you. But you need to always have somebody as well that you can go to, turn to, and have conversations, have prayer with. Now, you might also make mistakes. There are going to be times that as you run in your own race, and you think that you might, a lot of people that are running in their own race, or they're just building their own brand, or they're working their own visions, may just be doing it as a copycat, right? So that means they're mimicking what somebody else is doing. So therefore, you make a lot of mistakes when you're copycatting. And I don't believe that there's anything really, really wrong with copying and pasting. But a lot of times when you're copying and pasting without proofreading, you're liable to make mistakes. So be mindful that as you are building your brand, as you are, working the vision, that you're working the plan that God has for your life, that you are doing it the way that God is intended and not how other people are doing it, because you're likely going to commit some very disastrous errors. So make sure you're copy and pasting, but that you're proofreading as well. All right. Now, I want to know that for me, I knew deep down in my heart, I knew that in 2020, I had set a lot of things out. I set a lot of goals, a lot of aspirations, a lot of plans. I said I was going to do all these things, but I didn't do them. And thank God I have my kids who are very much accountable to me. My teenage children are very accountable to me. And one of them said to me not long ago, "Okay, Mom, when are you going to launch this podcast? When are you going to write this book of yours? When are you going to do these things?" Because we don't heard you say that all of 2020. But thank goodness for accountability, right? So we understand accountability is key. The Bible tells you that iron sharpens iron. And so it's a good friend keeps another friend accountable. You need good people that will keep you accountable, besides the water boy, besides that person that's going to just give you that word of inspiration, motivation, or encouragement or prayer. You need somebody that's going to be firm with you, that's going to check you. That might be a whole different person. Someone who's going to check you and say, "Okay, what happened to X, Y, and Z project? Or what happened to this? Or what happened to that you say you were going to do?" You need those people as well, right? So last but not least, I want to let you know that as you run in your race, that there are going to be stressful days, there are going to be hardship days, there are going to be sorrow days that become part of life. So knowing how to emotionally, intellectually manage your issues, right? You are able to become the best version of yourself. And most importantly, you learn that you can live such an amazing life, and you may not need a whole lot. All you may need to do is just accomplish one goal. Maybe lose 1 pound, right? Maybe start your podcast, or maybe just do a live. A lot of people have the number one fear of human beings is public speaking. And the second most common fear from human beings I've heard is dying while public speaking. And obviously, I believe that for most people, when they are fearful, they're stagnant and stuck. So, one of the things that I can tell you as you are encouraged this evening to do something for yourself 2021 is to definitely not be afraid. And I know that's easier said than done, but if you just take the risk, I guarantee you, when you take a risk and you take a chance on you, life will be a lot different. You will no longer see yourself the same way. Nothing will be the same. I am telling you from personal experience. You know why? Because I took a chance on myself. I said that in this year, 2021, I was going to write my book. And guess what? It is coming. It is coming in this particular season of 2021. I decided that I was going to tell my story. For many, many years, I heard people say, when you show up, Miss Brian, you're so powerful, you speak so articulate. Why don't you just share your story in a book? And I said, you know what? For many years, I said, since 2018, I had made a decision that I was going to do it. In 2018, I made a decision, y'all. That was just a decision that I made, but I did not make the move, right? God gave me the vision. I set out my journey. I told myself I was going to just launch that book. And I went on Instagram and I made a post just using some template, and I made a post about my book, and it got so much support. It wasn't even a book. I didn't even write my book just yet, but I got so much support. I felt encouraged, but I knew that fear was also keeping me stuck and stagnant from really releasing that book. So let me tell you that I had to push past my fears, and then I got accountability, and then I got help and support, and I got a community and a village of people who have been backing me up in the last couple of years. And this year, I finally took what it took was just courage, right? It just took courage to really sit down and make a decision. Plus, I got a phenomenal publisher, Lady Deborah Risper. Shout outs to you. So powerful, such an amazing person as well. Such a professional woman of God who understood my vision. When I sat with her and I had the conversation about what I wanted to do, it was not a hesitation. She understood my vision. So I knew that even though my vision was delayed, it was never denied. So here we are. My book is coming out pretty soon. I am definitely excited. I'm looking forward to sharing my story with most of you that have been watching me and following me for some years now. Because the reality is that we all have a story. And in that story is designed to help somebody. That story is carved out specifically to bring other people through their crisis, through their hardships, right? So my book title is called When Everything Failed, He Lifted Me. When everything around me failed, growing up in my country, from my parents splitting up, from just my years living with my maternal parents, just was a mess, was dysfunctional, to come into America as a young immigrant teenager and literally going through an experience where I felt like everything in my life was just failing back to back. Everything was failing back to back. But let me tell you, from every time I felt like everything failed me or I failed, God lifted me up. So I'm excited and I'm encouraged to share my story and my journey to how I got here and how I conquered, how I overcame the challenges of life, the obstacles of life, from death to loss, of everything from, I lost everything in my marriage, lost my home. I lost everything. But I did not lose my mind, right? I did not lose my mind. So one thing I could tell you that I also did in all those years, I understood that I was in a lane all by myself because I never could fit in. So I know I'm talking to somebody now. When you're running your race, when you are on your track, you probably would look around and you see that nobody looks like you, or you just feel like an oddball in the mix because you're running your own race. So I want to encourage someone tonight to take inventory. You know how I do it. I'm going to always ask you to take inventory of yourself, right? Ask yourself, are you stuck? Are you stagnant? Or are you running your race? Because if you're stuck and stagnant, then you know you need help. If you're running your race, keep running. I am here to be the water boy around your journey, to keep going. Don't stop. Okay, slow down sometimes, get a sip of water. Just don't stop, don't sit down, don't give up, don't quit, because that's not an option. So I'm looking forward next week to coming back with a phenomenal guest. She's coming to talk about joy. You gotta definitely tune in. You gotta set your reminders for next week, Thursday at 7:30 p.m. I'm gonna come back to have a guest to definitely share some amazing information for those who are looking to understand and learn about joy. I've been asked about joy for some time, and I'm excited to talk about joy with someone who has mastered joy. See, I have mastered the mindset, but there's an amazing woman who have mastered joy. So I'm looking forward to hearing what she has to say. So with that said, guys, stay tuned for the next hour. I will be back. I'm excited to be with Carlotta Taylor having a conversation tonight, a very open heart to heart conversation on her show, The Heart of the Matter. That's where we're going to go to. We're going to go to the heart of the matter of life, and we're going to get deep into the conversation. I'm excited to have you. I'm looking forward to inviting you in the next hour to join me. Well, with that said, this is your host, as you know, Let's Talk Live. This is your host, Shayla Bryan, your mindset maven. Until next week, Thursday, everybody. Good night.